Yo, 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 what is good, people? Happy hump day to all of you. June 15th, right smack dab in the middle of the month. Javar, welcome in. And first. Jenny, thank you for the early follow, if you're still around. Saffron, welcome in. Submitted a track for feedback, if I want to do feedback. Excellent. Played Katamari for 2 hours straight today. That's awesome. Hey! Respect the gazelle. Welcome in, Tom. Thank you so much for the sub. I appreciate you, homie. Big love. Always great to have you here. So, Saf, you played Katamari for 2 straight hours today. I'll tell you what, kiddo rolled me out of bed at like 5 o'clock this morning. I was up until like 1 working on some stuff. So I'm like, what's going on? He's like, we've got to play Katamari. And I'm like, oh no. Oh my goodness. Saf, you are currently playing We Love Katamari, huh? The one that we've got in is Katamari Forever, which has got elements of Beautiful Katamari and We Love Katamari. Lots of filter effects. Yeah, Saf. Recluse Sounds. Welcome in, homie. Happy hump day to you. Greetings from sunny Maryland, says Paul. It is dark and gray and cold here, but at some point it's supposed to clear up and become 70 today, which would be interesting because it's like the wettest 3 months in the history of rain here the last few months. So also is very interested in software programmers for hardware since found I had downloaded one for the Oberheim Matrix 1000 but never used it till now. Ooh. Had fun playing with that Monday since no OhmLab, then found another similar for the peak and spent yesterday playing with that. Latest 2 vids on the UC channel show this all. Awesome, dude. That's great. 15 months, Tom. 15 months, homie. Happy hump day, Paul. Yeah, man. If you have the chance, you have to wait to see the Flying Gazelle, right? Oh, man. Yeah, Katamari Forever is just so much fun. Javar says, finally got the MIDI for my E-drums to match my Steve Slate drums, so now I can render out a track on my workstation, transfer my surface out where the drums are, add drums, and transfer the MIDI back to the workstation for further processing. Big ups, Javar. Congrats. Dude, I remember when I first got it was like a TD12 kit, and trying to get it to work as a general MIDI device in Logic at the time. This is a while back. It's like 15 years ago, something like that. Yeah, right about that. It was difficult. It was difficult, but in the process, I discovered that I could control anything because it was a general MIDI device, and that sent shockwaves through my workflows for a very long time. I was also, at that point in time, I wasn't really using a mouse. I was using a pen and tablet for pretty much everything in Logic. So my main MIDI controller became a drum kit, right, with my sticks, and all the clicking around was actually with a pen. I was in a very different headspace at the time. God, that was some time ago. No, it was during the Logic. It was during the Apple Logic, and it was probably between like 15 and 12 years ago, actually, because there was a chunk of time. There was a chunk of time where I did not try to connect it to the computer. I was very in the box, out of the box, kind of experimenting. I was recording audio in, but not controlling with MIDI through the kit at the time. But yeah, that was a good moment for music. I was cranking out a few tracks a day at that point. Ooh, Javar has a TD25 chained with a TD10. Oh, crap. Oh, man. Andremia, hello. How are you? A sunny, almost 100 degrees in Tampa, dude. Stay cool. Stay safe, recluse. How hot is it going to get? I mean, it's already almost 2 there. But not too much hotter, hopefully. It's deceptive here. The high is always around like 4:30 to 5 p.m. And there's still sun in the sky. There's still light in the sky at like 10 o'clock at night at the peak of summer here. So the days can get pretty deceiving. Andy, what are you working on this week? DJ Empirical. Where are we? How many days? How many days left in the countdown? Before freedom ensues. All right, so I have no idea what's going to come out of me today, but I know that I'm going to be making some kind of cinematic orchestral swell type stuff, and I don't know how straight it's going to be, and I don't know how wild it's going to be, so find out together. Ooh, you are there. Next Friday is the last day. Nice, dude. Big ups. That's awesome. Oh, man. I was just reading the comment about how winter will be coming soon. Tan? There's been no sun. It's been constant rain for 3 months. This is just... It's been sunny a couple of times. Kind of nutty. Let's do a little track feedback for Saf really quick. See what he's cooking up this week. Let's see. Discord. Wondering your thoughts on this track, trying to organize everything by the mid side in different frequencies and also trying to tame some of the mids and highs. Tell me what you think about the mixing. Renee's bad trip to Egypt. This is awesome. Hmm. Okay, Saf. I personally think that this is one of your better mixes in some time. It still retained quite a bit of the heady, psychedelic, like smearing of colors and stuff as things like clash and run into each other and drone on over time. But there was much more definition in the range of um, frequencies for the individual sounds, which was really nice. So, kind of understanding how you're giving your sounds that space um, is absolutely priceless. So, big level up, homie. Big ups. Very, very good. Um, and just way more controlled, too. I could tell that you were really focusing on um, kind of the core of each sound. Very good stuff. Um, yeah, I think just in general, mid side um, itself can get a little heady at times in certain kinds of mixes. So I think these two things go great together for you, man. Seriously. Um, I think maybe a couple of long form filters just to kind of increase the interest of change over time. Now that we've got a little bit more definition on each of the individual elements throughout the mix, um, it'd probably be kind of fun to hear what a little accent here and there would do as things are kind of sweeping across. So, um, good stuff, man. Good stuff. Plate, welcome in. And yeah, we can do one for you too. I just read I like that UK garage snake. Oh man. UK garage snake. That sounds like an album name or something. All right, Plate. We're gonna listen to yours, and then we're gonna move on to some kind of production. Oh, and before I forget, new challenge, the new community challenge. Details were posted yesterday. There's a new channel. It's called Monthly Challenge. It's right next to Public Lounge. Check it out. There's a link to the online drive. We'll add more sounds to it today during the stream, and we'll probably add a few more throughout the month. And I'm kind of thinking that if this goes well, we'll probably do this twice in a row because we got started so late this month. But if this goes well, then I think it'd be kind of fun to have this pool of sounds that kind of changes throughout the month. So if you get inspired by something really early on, you might make something and have it done pretty quickly, but you might be inspired to make something drastically different by the end of the month. And I think that that would bring a cool little curveball to the whole thing. So that was posted here. Garage, not garage. Sorry, DJ empirical. Where would the filter effect go? Would create a sidechain or return effect if I put a filter. Okay, so where would you put the filter? That pad would be a really good thing to put it on. You could even put it on the drums. Like those two elements, if they both had some kind of filter play on them, um, and it doesn't have to be anything like majorly overt. Something that people do kind of get drawn back into though at different points because it's hitting a sweet spot in that moment, right? Or it's doing something that's calling attention to it, which is always fun. Um, but you know, it doesn't have to be like a crazy amount of resonance up there or anything, but just a small little accent on some stuff as it's rolling through. Maybe the one on the drums is a bit more um, defined, right? I don't know. Play. Let's dip into. Oh, and before we move on from the monthly challenge thing, you can submit your tracks in the channel right below it, the monthly challenge submissions, and then for those who were here, um, when we hit 1K the other day, A bunch of you downloaded a free sound pack, the 404 kit. We're going to have a little side challenge, and we're going to listen to entries on the same day as the general community challenge. So Friday, July 1st, whatever you're inspired to make with those sounds, if you were here and got those sounds, it's a little side hustle for you. Public feedback. Wait, we're up. And we're going to get into some production. All right, so I dig it. I dig the sound. I like your sample selection. I think your 808 is fantastic in this. I think it could use a little bit more room. So whatever else you can move out of center would be good. Um, and you might want to scoop just a little bit out of the mids in that 808 to make a little bit of room for the stuff that it is kind of stepping on, that's leaning out towards the sides. 55 seconds, you could drop in a little sample around 1 minute. That like, I don't know, 45 second to 1 minute span, 45 second to 105, something like that. It does get a little bit stale. Modulation would break that up for you. A little filter sweep, maybe a stutter transition at 114. You could take a 2 bar section or something like that around 136, and that next segment that kind of starts to hang for just a bit, you could remix that, put something like oh, it could be something really drastic, like a stutter edit or like a shaper box, or it could be something a bit more traditional where you just chop those 2 bars on the eights or something and then just shuffle up those bits or put them into a sampler and kind of play them back in a new order or something. Maybe a transition effect at 1 minute 50 seconds, maybe a small simple reversal effect in plus a transition effect around 155, and then maybe a subtle riser around 158, just to kind of have this kind of fun little exchange with some ear candy, and then it kind of builds to something, and then peace out. Give it some kind of an arc um, in that second half of the song that's a bit more like interest oriented, right? Like not all ear candy, but just a change up in the way that the things are being delivered, right? Because you've got a lot of really good stuff right there, so there's no need to change any of your arrangement, really, or your palette that you're working with. Um, so a few effects here and there, maybe another sample before 1 minute. Let's see if anybody else has something to say in here. And Dremia says that was pretty dope. Yeah. See your comment about the mid part gets kind of boring now. Yeah, I think just a couple modulation things in there would be good. Good stuff. Good stuff. I dig it. I like your sound. All right, moving on. We're going to do some. Oh, it's not game sounds. I didn't even update this today. This is going to be some kind of. Um, some kind of cinematic orchestral swells. Uh, let's turn off these guys. Sylvan was the reaktor ensemble today, by the way, for those keeping track at home. Should probably give this thing a name. Save this. Send to streams and say this 522. Crustal swells 1. So, all right. Let's load up. What should we load up? Should we load up some kontakt maybe? See what we get up to. The theme for this month's community challenge is nature. We'll go and find some sounds here in a moment. So if you can think of anything interesting that you'd like to play with, or you'd like to hear other people play with, jot it down in a note. We'll go find it. Or you can look it up on freesound.org and send a link in the chat. Thrill. Maybe we should play with Thrill for a bit. Load up Citrus. I don't have it. All right, what kind of stuff should we start with? How about it's kind of nice to hear some of those horns. Let's do some brass with some maybe just some simple hybrid orchestral first. Oh, water fountain. Strings, mallet, and brass. Give it a moment to load up its crazy amount of samples. Oh, Paul is asking, still thinking about a jam stream or people interested in a stream for playing along? That would be interesting, huh? Just gonna up the intensity on a couple of things here. Okay, that's kind of nice. EQing just a little bit. That's starting to sound a little bit better. Hey, friendly boy, welcome in. Happy hump day to you. Okay, that's kind of a nice one. I think we'll roll somewhere in that vein. I think it's starting to sound pretty decent. So let's set up a capture track. Just so we don't have to run the risk of not capturing all of the MIDI automation it's as it's written, which can happen and does happen. All right, cool. Oh, we are at 66 for some reason. Let's bring this up to like maybe be like 110. let's just scrub through. Okay, we'll make that a bit more interesting in a little while. But for now, that seems pretty decent. Let's roll through our MIDI stuff or our automation lanes here and see what it picked up. All right, we'll create a few of these down here. Mute these. Knock a bunch of these out. I was saying when I started my Kidnap collaborations, I found it so easy to jam along with Twitch and YouTube streams. Yeah, Paul, I think it's a great idea. It'd be really cool to have people record themselves while they're playing along and like share little clips and stuff. It'd be fun. Recluse is asking, are you familiar with a company called Spitfire Audio? Absolutely. They're absolutely, truly incredible. And Christian Henson has a YouTube channel which is phenomenal as well. Really, really, really good stuff. They also have something called Labs that you can dip into. All the lab stuff is free, and there's some really interesting stuff in there. They've also got the BBC orchestral stuff, which is solid. But everything that they create is gold. A massive new collection giveaway, huh? It's a result of a thing he did a couple of months ago where he requested samples of people banging on things so they could turn them into a swarm instrument. I was going to submit something but ran out of time. Oh, nice, Recluse. Nice. I didn't know that. Yeah, lab stuff is awesome. That's great. Truly. All right, let's get into the sample on this side. Just going to say yes to this, and we're going to change the sound a little bit. So this is springs. These are springs being beaten. And I'm just running this through the same chain that I had just built, or the same tweaks to this preset here. So it has a fair bit of everything we were hearing before. But now it's got these tasty little bits, the tines. All right, let's capture this one too. Next, swap out another one. Yeah, I think that's good on this one. Let's record that. And do a shorter one of this one as well. Cool. Slightly condensed. All right, I'm going to go in different direction on both sides of the engine this time. Go with some cymbals. Some cymbals and some bowed mallet stuff. Okay, so this one, let's see. Bring this gong down just a little bit. Bring this marimba up. All right, let's record this one. Sure about that one. Let's go back and listen to that really quick. Maybe with a little volume. Some basic strings. Some hybrid strings. Let's make a small adjustment here. Okay, let's bring up some harmonics in that. All right, I think that's what this one is. Let's go ahead and record that. Not sure how that smooth that was. Yeah, it's okay. Oh, Tom, are you talking about uh just like the basic sine wave, like sine wave piano type sound that you used to hear in MIDI previews? I haven't been paying attention to chat for a minute. Sorry about that. Bar says I still need a full orchestral library that has all the sections separated out instead of combined, but those are mostly expensive. I've got BBC, so that only goes so far. Right, right. Hmm. Yeah. You ever play around with the east-west stuff, Javar? I don't know. I like Spitfire stuff so much that it's hard to deviate. Javar just found the VSL stuff. Nice. Tom. Yeah, trying to sound more like those shitty sounds in music. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, looking for the GM banks, but Logic always Steinway grands it up. Yeah, totally, right? Um Twitch won't play video when you launch standalone Kontakt. That's an interesting bug. Focus mode. Oh man. Find a cheap 80s synth module and GM should be built in. Yeah, had an East-West sub for a year, but wasn't that impressed with most of the content, so it wasn't really worth it. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough once you've had Spitfire to go back, you know. That's tough. All right, let's roll through a different set here. Let's just bring up these rumbles a bit. Give this chaotic string stuff some stereo width. Drive it a bit. Not really. Let's go in that same direction. Let's go percussion and beaten and bowed. Uh, where is there? Oh. Hmm. Let's get away from atmosphere, get to a cluster. It's taken quite a while for this one to load. Okay, I think I need this to be more fluid. I gotta move a couple things here. All right, let's capture this one. Get another one of those. A little bit more string in it this time. quicker. And one more. Keep this one really minimal on just these guys. All right, let's capture this. I look up and I say, I make music with forks, plates, and cans. Hey, Zaris is here. Welcome in, Rick. How you doing, man? You know what they say, there's no such thing as a bad snare, just bad arrangements. Oh, man. Oh, cool. Nice. A collab session with Ableton Link working with VCV. That's cool. Oh, that's so cool. There's a module in VCV to sync with his MacBook Wi-Fi and let his Ableton clock pass into your rack. That's awesome. That's great. Because Einbach. Yeah. You hate them because you can't afford them. Hey, Nate's here. What's up, Nate? How you doing, homie? Welcome in. Happy hump day to you. Ah, for a great opportunity. Do you want to share anything, or just that you're looking for some good orchestral stuff? We were just talking about good orchestral stuff, so it's a good time to walk into the room, actually. What's the gig? Okay, so we're going to boost a couple of things here. I'm going to take this down, and we'll boost that a fair bit. Boost that a fair bit. Okay, that's pretty good, I think. Let's do that. So it's going to be for a video game that's in the Zelda Final Fantasy realm, and he's super inspired by the OSTs and Xenoblade Chronicles music. All right. Time to get away from the samply stuff. Okay. Right, of course. Got to keep the cartoon stuff for Kev. Well, congrats on the leveling up, dude. Sounds like you're staying busy. Yeah, yeah. This contact instrument is ace. It is so good. Thrill. Mysteria is another one from the same folks. Um, Mysteria is all vocal stuff, and Thrill is all orchestral stuff. Such great, great tools. All right, we're going to move away from the trill and flutter on this one. Trill and vibrato. Get back over to woodwinds on this side. Give it a second to load all of those samples up. Oh, dude, stray light, far light. What's the other one? Ashlight. I still haven't played with that one yet. But stray light and far light are absolutely great. Nate says way too busy. Also, dog walking clients are off the rails. It's swimming and work, but it's super worth it, and now I can afford to pay my homies for their services. Better book you ASAP. It is a little tough to get in, but we'll get you in. Oh yeah, the granular tools on it are absolutely fantastic. Yeah, yeah. Kontakt, when they stepped into granular, they brought the good stuff. All right, let's beef this up just a little bit. Let's drop this down, say around 120 or so. We'll build up these highs, mid highs, and get some of the string up. All right, drop that one. It's a good swell. It's a mighty fine swell. That was swell. Granular. Nate says, at least if I can get in before August, I am a happy guy. Yes, I can guarantee you that you can get in before August. Just give me a call or shoot me a text or something. Oh, man. Zaris, how's the studio treating you, homie? We haven't caught up in a bit. Busy, in shape, and animal therapy, but if I had my choice, I'd close up shop and do music, sound effects full time. You're getting there, dude. Tom says, Becky just reminded me what an audio nerd I am. It's true. It's true. It's good to have those who love you remind you every once in a while that you're a big audio nerd. And you are. Oh, Becky is here. Speak of the devil, here to cause a ruckus, throws a chair. Man, every damn time. Spent half the day cleaning up after her. How big is this one, Zaris? $40 gigabytes. Nice. And now for something completely different. But more things to load. Ooh, I should probably check prices on RAM this week. There have been so many leaps and bounds announcements that I feel like we're probably right around when RAM's going to drop again for what I need. Be great to max this computer out. Are we done loading? Yes. All right, let's do this. Little somewhat heroic, somewhat unsettling kind of thing. Let's really make this one pop. All right, let's start with something like that. More horns. Let's warm this up a bit more. Hmm. Let's make it a little dirtier. All right, let's get away from this brass climax and get into something. Portal. There we go. Get a couple of these light-hearted ones before we get all dark again. drop down and get a little one, maybe a little bit quicker this time. Becky has made herself clear. She will watch Star Trek over Star Wars any day. Any day. Well, you know, if you send him a nice headshot and a brilliant quote and say, just imagine this endorsement. Andremia agrees with Becky. All right, so what is it, Star Trek or Star Wars here? About to start some kind of turf war. Oh, yeah, Love, Death, and Robots, absolutely. Mini Zombies and Honey Badgers. Yeah, Love, Death, and Robots is awesome. Ooh, you just watched Squid Game in Korean this time. Was it better? Bonch, you're here. How are you? I wonder what genre of electronic music Riker would listen to. Is he a house guy? D&B? Something tells me that he might be kind of like acid jazz, maybe? Maybe just a simple F. Kind of creep in these chordal horns over here. Nah. I feel like once I play something for a few seconds, it starts to lose its appeal. Gotta keep moving. Not appeal. It's like the initial inspiration, I guess. Ooh, try this one. I like this. So this is the lowest and highest. So these chordal horns don't work quite as well. Not complex, maybe just dense, orchestral, all sections. We'll see as these samples load. Should probably have a stream just on mixing these guys down and treating them all, huh? It's a really nice combination here. The lowest and highest atmosphere and the dense orchestral one cluster. Just going to make a few tweaks to EQ. 8-hour stream incoming. 8-hour mix down. Believe it or not, I actually keep myself mostly under control. Yeah, the XY pads are so great for continuity. Yeah, that's why I've loved FMA and Absinthe for so many years. They've got these great ways of bringing this kind of organic morphing and mixing of elements. It's so good. Dig it. That one needs like a little. Too bad I don't have 6 hands. That one was pretty nice. Oh, it's getting hung up on something. Give this a little bit of tube. I like that. Let's get a little bit of modulation in here. What are we hanging up on here? I'm just going to purge and reload all the samples in here. It's getting hung up on something. Yeah, Becky, are you playing live anywhere these days? Oh, man. Record would be about lovage. Tom, take care. Get good rest, man. Not a ton better, but we're not getting the clipping anymore, so that's okay. Yeah, Mike Patton, man. Right? That guy. Jeez. Brilliant. All right, let's get this one. This one's kind of like magical or something. get another one of those. Slightly different. Start over here just a little more. And one more. Down a little bit. Full-bodied. See if we can get that one without the CPU spiking up there. Let me just quit out of some stuff. I can quit Slack for now. Sweet. All right, let's try that again. All right, let's do this. Oh, dang. Let's see what that actually sounded like. Yeah, it was just funky. Maybe it's just asking too much of it. now let's go and get one off that brass side of grid. Kind of same general space. Electron, let's play. Welcome in. Happy hump day to you. Gonna bring it, maybe not a C, maybe like a B. A little bit more unsettling. A little bit more drive in here. And let's bring up that brass again. Skinny up that modulation range as well. And let's just bring this modulation range down. Yeah, that's some pretty badass stuff right there. Nice spell. Some drama. Electron, yeah, this is called Thrill. Runs inside a Kontakt, made by the same folks that make Mysteria. Really, really, really great piece of kit. That was badass too. Let's bring that back and get that. Oh yeah, very evocative stuff. Emotive. All right, let's if we get up to some dense reattacks in here, can we give those a little bit of space? We give him a bunch of tape saturation. See what those sound like with that low brass in there. All right, let's just bring that way down. We're going to bring this up a bit, and let's just get our attack way up on this. And let's drop the pitch on these strings by 1 octave. Just a little offset from 1 octave. Let's bring these close noise. The reattacks can be maybe ambient instead of full. Maybe we could just offset that a little bit. Hand position. Didn't really like it as much. Not quite sure which. We need a different sound for this dense cluster. Tremolo. That's a little bit better. Let's bring this down. Kind of feel like maybe almost even a pitch up on this one. Yeah, I like that, a pitch or octave up there. All right, so maybe something like that. All right. Save that. Andrew Jack the Gay Baguette. Welcome in. Happy Wednesday to you. Happy Hump Day. Electron, let's play. What are you producing these days? And what are you working on this week? Electron, no worries. This is the full version of Kontakt. It's Kontakt 6, and it is I've got the complete Ultimate collection, so this comes with that. What kind of music do I make? Everything. Everything. Yeah, we're pretty strange over here, Becky, if you haven't noticed. But hey, strange is interesting, so might as well keep us around, right? Let's just see what happens when we go full ambient on these. It's actually quite nice. Let's bring up our strings balance a bit and drop this down, and we'll make a little subtle one. Starting over, that's just too loud. I want it more subtle. Mo. Maybe a little bit closer to where we were. Try that again. All right, let's get away from the dark brass and up to some atmospheric type stuff. Go some soft. Some woodwinds. And how about some percussion? Maybe some bowls. Let that load up. So I'm just swapping out the individual samples or sample clusters. I'm keeping all of the everything else is intact. So all of the pitch shifting and reverb and saturation and everything that was set up. Maybe we should do some percussion swells or something to just get away from thrill for a minute, shall we? Oh, what's this? What's this? We also had a week in the workshop making music with bird noises and grass. I have a plugin which sounds like a little can crushed drum thingy, so maybe come near that. What have I just walked into? Yeah, we are very random, Becky. Very random people. Very prideful, random people. Oh man. Electron says, "Oh, I'm a very fresh composer producer. I compose a little orchestra stuff like epic film music thingies. And last week I did a free workshop for that where I composed a little in a day and a half to a film camp. Was really cool and a nice experience. I only use free plugins like Spitfire Lab stuff and all that, but I think it's definitely enough to begin with without needing money. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely it is. Also a little game music. Ah, good for you. DJ Empirical is saying, I was just telling my roommate a couple good things about putting in notice at work. The Sunday scaries were non existent this weekend. And this morning, when I accidentally blew through my alarms, I was all, whatever, which is nice. Yeah. Yep. Paul is absolutely correct, Electron. Just play around with all the free stuff until you figure out not only what you're doing, but really what you're into, because it's going to change over time. And as you start to wrap your mind around stuff, you're probably going to get more into the stuff that you were pulling away from before. So, um, yeah. And there is just so much stuff out there that's free these days that it's ridiculous not to start that route, really. Trivia. Or go experimental and make music with trash cans and toasters. Absolutely. Electron, it sounds like you probably enjoy the monthly challenge. We just announced this month's monthly challenge for the community. Make some music, a track, a beat, whatever you like, whatever format you like, whatever genre like, whatever you're inspired to make. But it's got to have an element of nature in it. It's got to have at least one sound from nature in it. If you click over to the Discord, you'll find the rules and a link to some nature sounds that you can use in whatever you cook up. But you got a couple of weeks to make it. So if you're looking for another challenge, July 1st is the day that you got to have it in by because we're going to have a big listening and voting party. We do this once a month, and we crown a champ at the end of it. Winners have a chance to be on the show. Everybody participates, gets free sounds. It's a good time. It's a good time. Yo, Jazz Life, how are you, homie? Happy Hump Day. There is a monthly challenge. And for the first time, it is open to the entire community. This time instead of just subscribers. Prior to this, subscribers would get a free sound pack every single month, which they still do. It's just that whatever they were inspired to make with those sounds, they were allowed to turn around and submit those tracks in a monthly challenge that was kind of closed off to just the subscribers. But I want to open up the playing field a bit and make the boundaries, the parameters that we're all competing in are going to be loosened up a bit, um, in hopes that we can see some more people uh, bring some interesting stuff our way. Hey, Jazz Life, of course you can ask me a question. Guess what day it is? It's up day. Nate says, this has been a great hangout while I do client invoices, but it's getting close to head out. Dude, take care, Nate. Big love, homie. Electron says, currently Cakewalk is a DAW, and if you mean plugins by tools, that's about all the cinematic stuff, like Spitfire stuff. Yep. Nate says, OhmLab and community for titles in the Final Fantasy XIV Lord of the Rings League. What are your favorite orchestral plugs, samples you've come across? Oh, dude. That's a tough question. I mean, East West might give you the flavor of the Final Fantasy stuff. Wait, which Final Fantasy? Oh, 14. I would go more modern. I would go Spitfire and probably some of the more high end but kind of obscure stuff for Kontakt. I'm trying to think of Ashen is really good for cello. Um, but still, I would really encourage you to play. Don't forget how important play is because you can layer in elements amongst all those really incredible quality organic sounds. You know, you could lay in some stuff, for instance, some plucks from uh, maybe like from sculpture or something, right? Like some physical modeling stuff. It'd be fun just to kind of remember play. The monthly thing really seems like a cool thing to do with the community. It sounds like a lot of fun and a chance to get good feedback as well. Yep, we also do feedback Fridays here. So every Friday, you're welcome to bring something that you're working on and get some honest and frank feedback. Oftentimes more creative than technical, but will help you sound good. Oh yeah, um, yeah. If you don't put it all in the right space, Nate, it just doesn't it just doesn't work. And the space has got to fit, right? Don't forget, listen to your reverb, make sure it's tuned to what you're doing um, before you apply it. And don't be a savage. Oh, Electron, thank you. I was born with them. My smile. Best Life says, nice. So I need a rundown of a vocal chain on today's popular music and also like some general values for composers and attack, release time for what is fast, what is slow. EQ your verb. End of story. Oh, Uncle Chrome. Uncle Chrome. Electron. Compression, not composer. Okay, that makes more sense. All right, so you need a rundown on a vocal chain on today's popular music for compression attack release time. All right, so all said and done, every sound is unique. So there is no one and done chain that you're going to use for everything. And even if you did have a chain of consistent plugins on every vocal track that you are mixing, there would still be differences in all the settings. So it's just really important to understand why you're putting the plugins on there in the first place and then what order they're on greatly affects the output there. For instance, I always have an EQ on everything. So I know exactly what frequencies are running through because your plugins don't know what you're making. They can't make judgment calls. They have no idea what you're thinking or wanting or any of that. All they know is the signal strength coming into them and what you're asking them to do with that. So it's just really good to have complete control over your sounds before they even enter into a process like compression. Um, in regards to what's fast and what's slow, um, 0 or 1 is the fast on the side of the attack and release as well. Like the lower number is faster, the bigger number is slower. And you just want to make sure that for sounds that have a transient that is not as sharp as, say, like a really snappy snare or something like that, you're going to need a little bit more attack time to allow for the transient to come through. And then you're going to bring down um, the levels after that. You also want to make sure, especially on vocals, that you're using probably more upward expansion or upward compression versus downward compression on stuff that you want to feel uh, open and airy. If you've got some hot vocals where you're needing to tap down some peaks, then the downward compression is what you're after. You would definitely want to kind of experiment and A/B test between or audition between different compressor circuit types because different compressors behave differently. And depending upon what kind of music you're making, it's just going to change. So I mean, compression is an easy and very complex conversation. It's so very um, highly subjective. Like the material that you use should dictate it every single time. You need just like a place to start. Gotcha. All right, so there's this kind of conversation that you have inside of a compressor. Okay. It all starts with the input, so you want to make sure that you're bringing your stuff in at a level that makes sense, right? If it's clipping when it comes in, it makes no sense to leave it that way. Bring it down to a normal level, okay? The threshold is where your compressor is going to engage with the sound. So if your sound is coming in and it's peaking out way up here at like neg 3 or something like that's where its peaks are, then you probably don't want to leave the threshold all the way down at 20, or else you're going to be reducing the overall um, level of your sound by half, or you're going to be affecting half of the overall input signal. The ratio is how much it's going to reduce by once it engages. Okay, and it's a ratio, so 2 to 1 means it's going to cut it in half, right? 4 to 1 means it's going to cut it into a quarter of what it once was. So you want to make sure that you understand the relationship of the ratio um, in regards to the outcome that you should expect between input versus output. So the function, the intended function of a compressor is to reduce volume, right? It's to reduce peaks. It's to be Johnny on the spot and automate volume changes for you. So let's say that you have a signal that hits 0 dB and you set up a ratio of 2 to 1, okay? And your threshold is 20, neg 20. Okay, so it engages at -20. Its peak hit 0, which means that's a difference of 20 decibels there. And if we're going to reduce that peak uh, by half, because we're running in a ratio of 2 to 1, that means then that the resulting output of that signal is neg 10. It's -10 decibels. It's going to be right here because we've halved the distance between 20 and 0. It's going to come out at around 10 dB, right? So think about what the next steps are. It's the conscious decision of like, all right, so were those peaks errant? Like, were they an error of some kind that you're trying to correct, right, to balance your audio? That's it. Your job is basically done. You just have to figure out how quickly you want to have this thing engage with the sound and how quickly you want it to release. And that's it. And that's what the knee is. So the attack is the amount of time that you're going to delay the compressor's activity. Okay, so in other words, if you say, I'm going to give this a 20 millisecond attack, that means it's going to hold off for 20 milliseconds before it engages once it reaches, or once it identifies that a signal has reached -20 decibels, or the threshold that you've set. The knee is the rate at which that compression is applied once compression begins. So if you have this dialed all the way up to 1, it's going to take a longer time for the compression to fully be applied. Versus if you go down to 1, it's going to be super snappy. It's just going to be like, boom, I've reduced it. And you do not ever want to use 0. You do not ever want to use 0 in attack or knee. It's going to cause clicks. All right, so the other situation that you have in compressors is that you actually wanted 2 operations. You wanted the peaks to be brought down, but you also want the overall level to be kind of where it was originally. And really what you're doing there is you're increasing the rest of that sound in total, including the noise floor. And in this example, you would be bringing all of that up 10 dB if you were going to add back what you've taken away. So just to run through these numbers here really quick, we had a signal that was coming in and hitting 0 dB with a threshold of negative 20, at a ratio of 2 to 1, which means it's going to chop that signal down to negative 10 dB at its peak. So if we want to add the gain back that we just took away, we're going to add 10 dB. Okay, and so now the whole thing is going to sound much louder and fuller because the meat of the sound, the bottom of the sound, is closer to where the top of the sound is. When do you go fast? When do you go slow? Well, it's got to be, if it's got to be dependent upon the delivery of the sound that we're talking about. So if it's a really snappy sound, if it's something that just immediately gets loud, then you're going to want a quick knee. You're going to want a knee that's at like 1 or 2. And you're going to want your attack to probably be down at like 10 milliseconds or so because it's really quick. That's a really quick responsive attack. But let's say that you've got some kind of like ethereal vocals, right? Not shouting, not really percussive, sharp stuff. Then maybe your attack is going to be 20, 25 milliseconds or something to allow enough time for the transients and the sibilants, right? And you would probably put your knee up around 7, right? Because it's a very kind of forgiving ramp up. It's not immediately noticeable. It's also not overly slow. It's gentle. You would also not want to I guess overlook the importance of the threshold and ratio balance between those two different types of vocals, right? The short punchy vocals, those can oftentimes have a lower threshold because they've got more punchy transients, bigger peaks that you'll need to tap down. And you can probably get away with a higher ratio on those types of sounds as well. Versus the breathy, slower, more passionate delivery, I guess you could say, or soulful delivery. You're probably going to want to back off that threshold, bring that up so you're not cutting into as much of the sound, and probably not be as aggressive in your ratios as well. So they all kind of work together in tandem. Every sound is going to be different that you send through it. So again, just the conversation is, what level is this coming in? And it's important to know that so you can set your threshold. Your ratio is going to be how much you're going to reduce the peak by once it reaches that threshold, right? Gain is the amount of loudness that you're adding back. Knee is the rate at which the compression is applied. Attack is the amount of time that you're asking the compressor to delay activity or wait. And then the release is the amount of time that it takes for it to fully release its hold upon the sound. Now, oftentimes you'll see compressors with an auto feature. And if you're really unsure, just use the auto feature. But the big important thing here is that you don't have an audible release unless you're using compression for effect. If you're using it for some kind of pumping or something, that's one thing. You should never really audibly hear the compression clamp down on a sound or let go of a sound. Because when it lets go of a sound, it's going to jump up in volume, right? Because compression keeps a sound down. And if the attack is too quick or the knee is too quick, then you're audibly going to hear a dampening of the sound or a reduction of decibels very quickly, and it's going to be kind of jarring. So you don't actually ever want to hear those two things in most mixes. DJ Empirical says, example, on dialogue, like a podcast recording, I set a compressor with a relatively high threshold and a fast attack and release to catch the moments where folks get loud without doing much to the rest of the recording. Then I follow with another compressor with a slower attack and release at a lower threshold to further level things out. So Jazz Life is saying, which is why I prefer limiters most of the time. But all a limiter is a brick wall compressor. That's all it is. All that's doing is just turning the ratio up. That's the only difference between a compressor and a limiter, is that a compressor is going to attenuate, right? It's going to reduce the level of something when a signal comes in and reaches that threshold. And a limiter just says, you will not go past this point. Like there's a hard line in the sand, and that's it. But they are both doing the same exact thing. Bye, Andremia. Thanks for hanging, dude. Yeah, it's just good to understand the function of these things so you can kind of suss out what you need to do with one sound to the next. And right, but the limiter won't change the shape of the wave like a compressor will, or will it? No, it is. It absolutely is, because it's absolutely the same thing. It stops a peak from going higher the same exact way that a compressor does. That's why they both have a threshold, and why they both have a gain, right? Because you're actively stopping something from being as loud as it was once originally. And then people tend to crank up that gain knob too, which is going to increase the loudness because they've just made something quieter. So, yep. Yeah, we call it a brick wall because a waveform could be going, 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 and then they hit that threshold. But that limiter is like an infinite ratio, right? The ratio of 1 to 1, 2 to 1, right? This would be infinity to 1. This would just be like there is no audio leaking through this. Yeah, this is where saturation versus limiters is a very interesting conversation. Absolutely, because now we're talking about the generation of harmonics and like the manipulation or management of loudness, or perceived loudness, um, through distortion rather than other means of like limiting or whatever. It's all very, very closely related. Very closely related. Before it gets clipped. Can a compressor scoop into a wave shape and change it that way? Yeah. Yep. Absolutely it can. It absolutely can. Um, if you have a snare sound and you set that ratio to like 8 to 1, and you set your threshold at say -30, that's going to sound like a flat snare. It's going to sound more like a thud than a crack. And if you set that, and if the attack is at like 10 milliseconds, it's just going to be super snappy. It's going to be like there's no transient allowed through. It's just going to be like, dunk. But if you turn up your attack and turn up your threshold and turn down your ratio, you're going to get a really nice snappy snare. The transient's going to sail through, and then you're going to slightly compress the waveform right after the transient, which is going to accent. It's going to allow us to perceive a greater accent at the point of transient, at that moment of initial impact. Because by comparison now, the body of the snare in the waveform is lower than it originally was, but the transient is still where it was. So it's a really nice, sharp, cracky uh, snare now. And a limiter doesn't have um, a lower ratio. It's just a brick wall. It's just the maximum setting on a compressor. So that's the difference. DJ Empirical says there's an interesting, inexpensive plugin from Hornet. I think it's called Coherence Meter. English isn't his first language, so it's not the best name. Where it helps you gauge saturation versus dynamic range. Hell yeah. There's Coherence Meter in the Logic plugins as well. Sounds become flat when their transient gets lopped off. Correct. Yep. Yep. You got it. You got it. You just got to really play around with individual sounds, and kind of get a bearing with it, right? If we were to put just a single sound in here into our timeline, Let's just grab a snare. Okay, here's a decent example. It's very synthesized. You can hear the transient versus the body. Okay, so here's our sound. And we're going to set this up. We're going to look at the level coming in. So it's peaking out right here at neg 2.5. So if I set a threshold of -10, it's going to have an effect on this piece of audio. Okay, it's going to actively reduce the peak of this thing, but by how much, right? Because it's a fleeting amount of time that it's above -10. So let's set this at 2 to 1 and watch our meter over here and see. So we can see that it's reducing by about 2 dB. Now, if we were to take our threshold down to -20 now and do this, you're going to hear a pretty significant difference in the delivery of the snare. All of a sudden now, it's not as punchy and open as it was. And if we turn this back up, all of a sudden we can hear more of the entirety of the sound. Let's take this down to -30 really quick. So now we're almost hearing more of the body than we are the impact, the transient. The transient is the peak that's being turned down. So what we want to do is we want to find a middle ground here, maybe like a -15, and we're going to set up a ratio of like 4 to 1 here, and we're going to look at the reduction. We're also going to bring down our knee and make it more snappy, like a 2. I don't like a 0 ever, and 1, it's got to be something really, really snappy for 1. And I'm also going to increase the attack time just slightly here to 23 milliseconds and see if we can get just a touch more of the head of this sound through. Cool. So now we hear a reduction of 4 decibels. So if we were to just print this really quick with that compression in place, and we look at these two waveforms, we'll see a slight difference. Now let's just increase that ratio. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I didn't have the compressor on that one. I had that on the output. So let me just move that over. Okay, so we're going to get rid of this. We'll do that again so you can see the waveform difference. Okay, so you can actively see that there's a difference here, but now what we're going to do is we're going to increase it even more. And we'll do it quicker. We'll take this down to closer to 10 milliseconds. And we're going to leave this as is. And we'll bounce this again. So now you can see that there's a significant difference here between these guys. Now, oftentimes people are going to turn up what they took away in a sound too. So if you were to turn up your gain now, you're just going to see the waveform get big again. But the difference here is that there's going to be less difference between the skinny parts of the sound, the quietest part of the sound, and the biggest part. It's just going to be more blocky. It's just going to be more white, basically. And that is what the limiter is going to do. It's just, that's why it's called this brick wall, is because it just runs into the top and then it stays there because loudness has been increased and it can't go anywhere. DJ empirical. I mean, maybe coherence is the right term. I just don't like it. Yeah. Jazz Life is saying, look, man, I apologize if I come off as argumentative or something. I can just tell that you can answer these questions I have, but I'm still sort of learning the language with which to talk about these concepts. Yeah, exactly. That's what the whole stream is for, homie. You're not arguing, you're learning. Yeah, this is just a matter of doing it again and again and again. The concept is simple. Compressors reduce volume based upon your parameter settings. That's the simplicity of compression. The complexity of compression is the fact that every single sound is going to be treated just a little bit differently, um, or in some cases, very differently. And it's all going to be based upon the output that you need, that you desire, right? Um, Andrew is saying very unlikely, but imagine if someone buys out Logic and releases on all operating systems. Just imagine, right? Right? You know, Apple could make it happen if they really wanted to. Jez is saying, of course, and not to sound argumentative or whatever, but like of course, I understand the maths of it pretty well. I think. Hey, look at that! Thank you, Stephen. Um, welcome to the club, Jazz Life. What hurts is the body of a snare. It depends on the snare. Um, if you are looking at most snares in like electronic music, 250 ish is where you see a whole bunch of the low end activity, but there's also this crack and pop and stuff up top. It's a full spectrum sound, really. Yes, the concept is subtle and the subtleties are exquisite. That is correct. It's like a game like Pente or chess or checkers. Like you can learn the rules in like a minute. Well, chess is more complex, but you know, checkers or Pente or something, it's like tic-tac-toe, right? Connect four, like boom. But there are some games that the rules are just that simple to learn and it takes a lifetime to master, like Go or something. Yeah, and it is a beautiful thing. And remember that it's just volume automation. And that's it. That's all it is. And that gives you great insight into sound and the manipulation of sound in general. Like our perception of things is more influenced by the perception of presence, of loudness than anything else. So it's definitely one of the most powerful tools that we have in the arsenal. Absolutely. Yeah, 450 is kind of the hot and heavy spot, and that can become problematic if you've got a really busy snare in the mix, of course, because everything is popping off around that same exact frequency. You haven't played Pente in decades. Oh, dude, come back. Compression makes just look like tic-tac-toe. Well, you know, you can take it one step further and look at multiband compression. Now, that is the same exact rules, but there's a different compressor basically for each of the bandwidths that you set up, right? So most multiband compressors are going to give you at least 4 channels to play with. So you can compress your lows and your low mids and your mid highs and your highs separately from one another, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, it is. We all need to be reminded of these things, but all of the core effects, like the core audio effects processes, are incredibly simple, right? Tremolo, volume, right? Sometimes it can sound like panning because the phase offset, right? If you set your phase offset to 0 in a tremolo, it's just volume manipulation. If you offset your phase, now you're getting left right channel. It's just volume. If you look at chorus, right, it's just detuning, right? That's all it is, right? And phase, right? You're just manipulating the the delay. It's a very short form kind of delay, basically, right? You're offsetting the phase of these superimposed images, basically. But each one of these classic functions is really a simple idea at its core, right? A bit crusher. Most of them are actually doing two things. There's the sample rate manipulation and then the bit depth, right? So you're manipulating these two very simple um, concepts, parameters, right? So if you really kind of slow yourself down and think about how sounds are actually arrived at, right? There's the source sound, and there's the loudness manipulation, and there's the pitch manipulation, there's the timing manipulation, um, and then there's not much after that. Because when you get really, really technical about a lot of different things like saturation and compression and limiting and all of these things that feel close together, they're all made possible because of the volume manipulation, right? When something hits that brick wall, what's happening to it? It breaks in some way. Well, to what degree and how? And all of that is what saturation is all about. But really, it's so good just to be reminded every once in a while just how simple each one of those individual processes is, because it'll help us kind of deflate or de-escalate our moment of crisis, right? Like we feel intimidated by something in the mixing world or the mastering world because it's got these technical names and there are standards that you're trying to adhere to or meet or whatever. But really, at the end of the day, it's all just rock and roll. Like it's all just very simple things that you stack together to make bigger things. Yes, the occupied zone. I like that. Yeah, Saturn is good. Multiband saturation. Yep. Yep. Oh man, if you're quoting Dan, you better not botch this. Tremolo is volume, and I don't care if someone makes a Rhodes got it wrong 80 years ago. That's what it is and all it is. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Dan is correct. Phaser effect can be looked at as a filter with a notch on an EQ. Yeah, absolutely. And filters are just EQ presets, right? That's all they are. So all of these things are absolutely connected, absolutely connected. And then we just have these tools that make getting to certain positions, um, certain sets of parameter tweaking, if you will. And then we call them something specific, right? Like a double notch filter or a scream filter or a comb filter. A comb filter is actually just a delay. But all of these things can be kind of not dumbed down, but boiled down, broken down to their most critical and essential components. And oftentimes it's just volume, pitch, timing. There's not much else going on. There's not much else going on with sound. Electron, right? I know what a note is. I can't read them, but I know them. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Dan is correct. Visibly unsurprised. Yeah, Dan is usually correct. He's visibly confused. Yeah, you know what? That's what it all feels like at first is you're like, "Ah, I've got it. I've got it." Wait, I had it. Like 8 seconds ago, I had it. And then you do it 30 or 40 more times or a couple more years worth of times and then it just makes sense. And once you get it, you don't unget it. But you got to get it. You got to get it. Oh man. Well, Jazz Life, glad you're in the submix. You can go back and you can look at VODs now and kind of jump into the deep end of the pool with all this stuff. And Electron, keep coming around. And you guys should take part in the community challenge this month. I'm not really putting up with you, dude. I'm just answering your questions. To be fair. Oh man, seriously though? No, that's not like it at all. Okay, so I used to write, I mean not to like say that you're wrong, Electron, but it's just not that simple because age Does profound things. A skateboard used to be my main mode of transportation. If I stepped on a skateboard right now, I would freaking die. Probably four different ways I would die almost immediately. And I'm not embarrassed to say it, but I understand how it works. But I cannot do it. But the opposite is true with stuff like compression. You just keep getting better with it over time. You really do. It becomes this kind of um, um, it's like a game controller. When was the last time you looked at your controller when you were playing a game? Well, when you first started playing, you looked a lot and it screwed you up, right? Just like trying to solo on an instrument. At first, it sucks because you're constantly like this and you're looking. But eventually, you get used to your instrument. You get used to your game controller or you get used to your mouse and you stop trying to make the correlations and you just do the damn thing. And it's easy. Jazz says, can't tell you how valuable this has been for me. Yeah, just keep coming back. We're here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and bring your work in progress stuff, the stuff that you're actively working on. Bring it on Fridays. You can get some feedback, and everyone in the chat lights up, and it's fun. We get a couple hundred people through usually on Fridays, and it's the best music on Twitch. Dude, I got on a skateboard once. I was very good at riding. I was not all that great at falling. You wrote that anyway for about 250 milliseconds. Oh man. Yeah, I almost broke my ass so many different times. I'm so lucky that I still have all my teeth. But what else are you gonna do? I mean, you're a kid. You got to get around in the world, right? Yeah, just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Yeah, I say that all the time, especially about like capturing stuff, like making stuff with sound design. You'll notice that I could have just been working in MIDI that whole time earlier, but I was bouncing directly or recording directly to audio, and there's a reason for that because I got a lot done. And had I been just kind of like tweaking knobs the whole time, I wouldn't have really gotten anything done. You just gotta do it. Can't really do a kickflip with a longboard. That's true. It's like trying to ride on concrete on a surfboard. It's big. Those two things are not the same. Yeah, so one more little wiggle into this conversation here on compression is that there are different types of compressors. So once you start to wrap your mind around the signal flow, that conversation, and the order in which you run through that conversation, that workflow, once you have that down, start auditioning the difference between the different circuit types by flipping through them. If you're lucky, you've got a compressor like the one in Logic where you can actually actively flip through different circuit types. But if not, just load them up in sequence on the channel strip and just turn them on and off and put the same settings on each one and see what is the difference between an optical compressor and a VCA or an FET or whatever. And just use your ears and try to put words to it. Try to put words to it. It's the words in your head that matter the most. So we talk a lot about this on the stream about developing a language around sound. And if you can compare things to everyday uh, vernacular, right? Like your everyday language, if you tend to um, speak with a lot of slang, then you're probably going to refer to sounds with a lot of slang, right? And less technical. And that's totally fine. It's just about understanding what you're saying, right? And if other people can understand you, and once you have a shared language between you and your sounds, just like you do between you and your everyday like encounters with objects in your kitchen or whatever, emotions with people, or flavors in your meals, then you have a great resource to draw from in regards to how to describe something, right? You might call something really spicy or hot or wet or grimy or gritty or something. And each one of those things means something different. And you just start getting really creatively literal with your sounds and yourself, and be really honest with yourself as you're going through it all, so you can develop a legitimate language around all of it. And it changes everything. It transforms the entire world for you. Yeah. Yeah. And Saf has talked about, watching movies and getting a sense of like how you visualize the sound. Um, Words are hard. Yeah, there's just a whole world of compression. Hey, Eric is here. Welcome in, homie. Good to see you. Make it creamy means stick a small stone phaser on it. Yeah, right? Well, classically trained pianist. I'm a classically trained chef, and I use a lot of like food terminologies and stuff when I'm talking about sounds, and it makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're classically trained. You already have an understanding of a lot of the mechanics and like technical underpinnings, right? Apply that shit. All right. Let's go see who's up. Let's go see who's doing what. Because I'm going to go do a bunch of naming and tagging, a lot of metadata stuff. Oh, we didn't add anything to the drive. I'll do that this afternoon. If you guys have requests for nature sounds for this month's challenge, do let me know. We'll get them added to the drive. Try to grab everything from freesound.org this time in hopes that you guys sharing with the people who recorded the sounds that you're using in your music will help you get some more eyes on your stuff. Engage with the community a bit. Hey, Becky's rolling. Let's go say hi to Becky. She's DJing. I appreciate you guys being here. Happy Hump Day one last time. Don't forget, bring your work in progress files on Friday, or tracks on Friday. Drop a link in the Discord early because it gets busy. And I'll see you on the flip. Y'all stay inspired. Peace out.